Hello, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Yes. Welcome to another episode or live for Mamas Beyond the Matrix. My name is Kelly.
And I'm Jay.
And we are two mothers and families that have moved from the States to Medellín, Colombia. And we go live on Fridays to talk to you guys about our experience, give you information if you're interested in moving your family or relocating your family to Medellín. We are providing the information to help you do those things.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a 90-day checklist, relocation checklist. So if you guys want to pick that up, it is free. So if you just look in the description of our lives, you will be able to see that link. Click on that and you will be able to download that 90-day relocation checklist for free. All right.
And I just want to add, if you are a parent, if you are a family, and you have been thinking about relocating, whether it's to Colombia, whether it's to Mexico, whether it's to Thailand, wherever you may be thinking about moving to, this is a platform for you. And the reason why I say that is, even though we're sharing information specifically about Medellin, like Kelly said, there's a lot of things that are transferable to places that you want to travel to live, or you're considering to relocate to. And if you are a family trying to relocate for the very first time, a lot of the tools, a lot of the things that we talk about is going to be relevant to you. The cultures may differ, the language may differ, but some of the brands and the names and the particulars, the specifics might change, but the art of relocating, the motivation about relocating, the mental capacity and what you need to be thinking about relocating, you'll find that all here at Mamas Beyond the Matrix.
Yes. So today's topic is going to be about money. Like, how do you handle money and access your money in Medellin as a foreigner or any place? Because again, just like Jay said, this information that we're providing is going to apply for any country you move to. So we're going to give you ways that we are paying for things, how we're exchanging our money, and all of that information so that you feel more comfortable about your move abroad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me go ahead. Right. So just imagine that you made it to Medellin. You got to get your apartment. It's already ready for you. You know what school your kids are going to go to. You're getting settled into life. And then you realize, how do I actually pay for things that I need to pay for? You know, even with schooling, a lot of times schools will have their own portal for you to make payments. But a lot of times with those portals, they are looking for you to transfer money from a bank in Colombia to their banking account in Colombia or different things like that. So it can be a little nerve-wracking at first. I want to let you know that you still can use your debit and credit cards.
Absolutely.
You just need to let your credit card and banks companies know that you are out of the country so that they will flag it and won't think that it's fraud if you're using your card.
Absolutely.
Cash is king. It's always king, but you can get cash out of the ATMs. You don't have to come to Colombia or Medellin with a whole bunch of cash.
Mm-hmm.
Just know you can get it out of your ATM, and we will talk about some ways that you can save on those fees and different banking accounts that you should have to help you out on your journey abroad. And also talking about Colombian banking accounts. Do you need one? Do you not need one? When you're paying your rent, how do you get that done? Utilities, how do we get that done? So we're going to be discussing all of these things in general and giving you what we've done and are either stories from ourselves and other people we know as far as how we are completing transactions here in Colombia.
Yes.
So before we move forward, and we're looking at notes, so if you see me look down, just know we got our notes to stay on track. But if you move to Colombia, like let's just say tomorrow, how do you plan to access your money? Like, what are your thoughts? Like off the top of your head, have you even thought about it? Because it needs to be a thought. It is very important. You do need to do a few things before you leave your home country, just like I mentioned earlier, but we'll get into that a little bit more detail. So let's turn it over. And Jay, do you want to talk about why money is one of the biggest relocation stressors?
Yes, so money obviously is going to be a stressor, especially if you're new to traveling and you're using your card. Let's say you're using your debit card. Let's say that you're using your credit card. And you go and you check your bank account and you see, what are all these fees? What are all these fees? There's called a foreign exchange fee. And that you will get those fees for, if you spend $2, if you spend $2,000, you will get these little incremental fees that will add up over time.
Yeah.
So that can be stressful. And especially if you're not budgeting in for that, and a little goes a long way over some time. So you want to be mindful of that. And so without knowing, you just do things as you normally do. You don't know what you don't know. So you use your card, you use your credit cards, you use your debit cards as you may. And then on the back end, you realize, oh man, I'm being charged all of these fees. So that's why it's important. But not only that, understanding the exchange rates, understanding how far your American money can go in another country. All of these things are important because as of recently here, we are recording this in 2026. And recently here, the value of the US dollar has recently went down. And although it may not look like a lot on the front end, it may not look like a lot. It looks like cents. When you look at it when you visually look at it, it doesn't look like a lot. But we've literally have within the last couple of months have went up 25% on expenses. And as a foreigner living in another country, that can impact you greatly, especially when you're used to, or you're trying to budget in your monthly expenses, your rent, your educational expenses for your children, your groceries, and you have a 25 increase inflation basically on all of your goods and items that you need to pay for. And it's really because of the economy back home in the United States. All of that can impact you, especially if you have a big family. All of that can be very impactful. So these are things that cause a lot of foreigners, a lot of families to have some stressors when it comes to their money. Also, having the accessibility of accessing your money back home in the United States, accessing your savings, accessing your checkings. How do you have access to that in another country? And a lot of that is through transferring your money and moving your money around, but also paying your bills. How are you able to pay your bills? Now, when you first move to a country, a lot of people, and we've talked about this before in some of our older episodes about relocating and finding an Airbnb first or staying in a hotel first, where when you do that, it's a little easier to pay your bills. You're on the Airbnb platform or you're using whatever card that you typically use to book your hotels. But let's say that you decide, I'm going to stay a little longer. I want something more local. I want to really put some roots in, even if it's temporary in the country. And you might move away from Airbnb. And so now you're doing and you're handling business a little more locally, not completely as a foreigner, but locally. How do you pay your rent when they accept money in Colombian pesos and you have US dollars? Now you can transfer money using different apps. Some of them could be Wise, some of them can be Remitly, but those are apps that are widely used globally. But just because they're used globally doesn't mean the local economy here or wherever you will be are familiar with those platforms. They have platforms that are more local, like Nequi, and then there's another one called, what is the other one called? Expat. And so these are platforms that are local to the Colombian community. And so you may suggest paying one way and they may say no because they're not used to it. We had an opportunity where our healthcare professional, good thing he speaks really good English and he's open, but he didn't accept Remitly and he didn't accept Wise when we first met him. And he has a big American clientele. So it was interesting that he wasn't even familiar with it. But guess what? On the spot, when we were trying to pay for our medical expenses, he downloaded the app and he was open to a new way of receiving money. And he actually liked it better because he was like, oh, the money's in my account right now. We're like, yeah. He said, oh, I'm going to be using this. So, not everybody is as open as that because, there are scams and we're foreigners and they wonder, and as they should. And so you have to be mindful of maybe there's another platform. You would need to be open to using being in another place and being in another country. So yeah, and the exchange rate is really important because that's going to tell you how far your US dollars are going to go in another country. And there's apps for that too. I know a few, but you can search it. There's different converting apps that will convert your US dollars into any currency, into Canadian currency, into baht, into pesos, Colombian pesos, into Mexican pesos. It's just you need to select which country you want to convert that to, and it will give you that conversion rate.
Right. And then to your point, and Jay just mentioned how the US dollar, the value of it has dropped. Well, in addition to that, the Colombian peso has increased.
Right.
So that means,
great point.
all of our expenses have gone up, and our major expenses are rent, and really rent and education, probably, right?
Yeah. Rent, education, groceries.
Groceries, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I just myself sat down and like recalculated, what does this look like, when the value of the dollar drops? How much more am I paying in my bills, right? And as to Jay's point, it may look like a little bit of a change, but when you look at your numbers and you're paying let's just say over $1,000 for your rent, those numbers, that could be an extra $30, $40 on your rent every month now.
Mm-hmm.
And as it continues to drop, your rent or your higher expenses, education, all of the things are going to you're going to continue to pay more money for it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of want to make sure you keep those things in mind. So how do most foreigners really access their money? So we talked a little bit about this. The main way we get cash is ATMs. So I'm on an ATM run at least once a week.
At least
once a week. And ATMs are convenient here. They're everywhere. There are a lot of different banks. If you go into any mall, which is a very safe way to get money, you go to any mall, they're going to have actual banks inside the malls. And then they're also going to have ATMs for multiple banks inside the malls in multiple locations.
Yeah.
So it's an abundance of ATMs. You don't have to worry about it. However, there are some ATMs that will only allow you to pull out so much money. So there's one ATM that I know of here that you can pull out the most money. I think is it Servi Bank or something like that. I forgot the exact name of it.
I haven't used that one, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's the green ATMs, like the lime green ones. So those you can pull out. I know the max of 4 million pesos. So if you need a large lump sum of money, like maybe you need to pay for something in cash that, that is of higher value, that would be the ATM to go to. Otherwise, you're going to be limited to a couple 100,000, maybe 500,000, something like that. So these are just things to kind of pay attention to. Also, when you're at the ATM, looking at that conversion, because there are two different ways that your money can be converted. It can be converted here on the Colombian side, or it could be converted on the US side with your bank. So whenever we're at the ATM, we always decline the conversion here because we get a better rate when our banks do it in the United States. So those little kind of tricks and tips are good to know. And all of this is actually in our relocation guide. So when that's ready and you guys want that, all of this information will be in there in black and white for you to kind of go to the section and know exactly what you need to do when it's your time to pull money out of the ATM. International fees. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, and Jay mentioned this, the fees they're on your banking account. Now, if you're using your credit card, you're not going to see international fees because credit cards normally let you use them and swipe them, no additional.
Normally. Some of them do. Some of them have it, but yes. You need to check your
terms
and conditions in your credit card and use the card that doesn't have those fees. But some of them may.
Some of them may. Okay. I just know the ones I have don't. So I just basically just use my credit cards whenever I want to with no problems, no fees, and just pay the bill at the end of the month. And it's just simple. And that's a great way to earn points and, different things. And maybe make it easier to track your expenses as well because everything's on this card. And I've even gone to the point of separating okay, my food and transportation expenses are on this credit card. My housing expenses are on this credit card. So I'm able to really see how much I'm spending on different things, and it makes it easier for me. But that's just my setup.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everyone's. It's not everyone's. Also, there may be some daily withdrawal limits from ATMs.
Absolutely.
So when you go, you may want to pull out as much as you can, and maybe a little bit more, because again, you don't want to have to keep running to the ATM. If you're being charged fees with your bank, you don't want to have to keep paying those fees over and over again. So when you go, you really do have to be intentional about what you're pulling out, unless you have a banking account like I have, where you don't have to pay, or you get reimbursed for those fees.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit more as well. Now, some of the apps that were mentioned, Wise, Remitly, those are other ways that you can transfer your US dollars to another currency. Again, there's still going to be some type of a fee or exchange rate that they give you. Now, the fees aren't that high. I know on Remitly is usually like a 99-cent fee. However, the exchange rate is not that great, so the exchange rate on Wise may be better than Remitly. But I have to use Remitly because I also use what we call Nequi, which is another app that Jay talked about. And Nequi is really like think of it as a Venmo or Cash App. You are able to pay people directly, or you can transfer money directly into their Bank of Colombia accounts.
Absolutely.
You can pay your utility bills through this app, and it's an abundance of things that you can do. So normally what I do is I take Remitly and I transfer my US dollars to Remitly. So then I use Remitly to send money to Nequi. So it's like a couple, maybe 2 steps, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just really going into Remitly, requesting money to be transferred, and it takes it directly from my bank account. And I tell it where to send it to, which is Nequi, and it takes it directly to Nequi. So it may sound a little complicated, but it really is not. Those are
think about like transferring your money from a savings to a check-in and then sending it to Cash App. It's kind of like doing something like that in order to move your money for the best use and the least expenses that you may have on moving your money, using your money. So internationally.
Right. And Wise and Remitly are just 2 apps that are popular. There are more apps out there that you can go research and figure out what is the best option for you. And then there may be, I have both apps. And there may be just different benefits to both apps. Like I said, Remitly is because it transfers to Nequi. However, Wise will probably transfer to another local app that you can pay, for things for, or you can just keep money in Wise as a banking account and just have a Wise card, like a debit card. There's an ability to do something like that as well. And you can actually use that as your checking account instead of having a regular account in the States. So explore it, see what works for you. But those are 2 really good apps that are popular that we use outside of the country.
I wanted to go back real quick because we were talking about the amount of money that you can take out of the bank. And I think on some, you were mentioning at some banks, there's a maximum of like 500 mil pesos, which would be equivalent to about $150 US dollars right now with the current exchange rate. And then the other one, which this is my first time hearing about, they have the highest, because I know Bank of Colombia just went up on how much money that you can take out.
Oh, okay.
But the one that you're mentioning, the green one, I forget the name of it, that's 4 million pesos. Is that what you said? And that would be equivalent to about $1,200 based on the current exchange rate right now. So anywhere between $150 max to $1,200 max. And sometimes that may be your daily limit as well. So just be mindful, check into that, especially if you're using a lot of cash, if you're paying for a lot of things by cash, you're going to want to know what those limits are.
And speaking of cash, and I just want to pause for a second, we are used to the card culture or tap culture or Apple Pay culture, which you can still use those things here. However, cash is really king here. And you do have to adjust your mindset, because a lot of things that we are able to pay for with a credit card or, transfer or something like that in the States, they want cash here. So you have to have more cash available in your account or on hand in general. So that's a shift.
And it's going to cost you more to use a card too, because they will tell you we prefer cash, but if you use a credit card, we're going to charge you an additional 5%.
And 3 to 5%.
Yes, 3 to 5%. So be mindful of that, because if you're using a card that has foreign fees on there already, plus an additional 3 to 5% on your purchase, is it worth it? So making sure that you have cash, but also being mindful of how much cash you need when you go out, because you don't want to just have all of this cash on your person. That's not wise here, but just making sure that you have an understanding of what's needed. And it takes a while. When you first move to a place, you probably want to have more cash on you than you think you need, just because you're getting used to how does the local dollar spend, what can you get for that amount of money. So you may want to have a little more on you than you probably need in the beginning. But once you start figuring out the cost of your essentials, your groceries, whatever you need for your errands, you'll have a better idea of how much money you actually need to keep with you and on you.
Yes, and that also is a benefit for having those apps like Nequi.
Yes.
Because you can actually just have money sitting on that instead of having to carry physical cash. And most places will have a way for you to pay via Nequi or a Bank of Colombia transfer.
Okay, I want to get into something that I don't think we were going to talk about, but I want to talk about the bank culture. And the reason why is because in the United States, we're used to a bank culture that's different here. We're used to being in our cars, driving up to the ATM, taking out money, going into an establishment, a banking establishment, and there might be an ATM off to the side, and you can take out your money. But here it's a little different.
Yeah.
I have not, and I don't know if you have, but in all the places that I've traveled around Colombia, I have not seen one drive up ATM.
No,
that is not the culture here. And I know some people feel safer pulling out money that way, but that doesn't exist here. Matter of fact, bring a little patience with you when you decide to go to the bank, because there are a lot of times that's how people pay their bills, and they do locally, and they do transfers that way as well. And so sometimes those lines can be a bit long. But like Kelly said, there's a lot of ATMs that you can find in the malls. You can find ATMs almost anywhere. You can find them. You may have to walk a little bit to get to them, but in your major public areas, there are going to be a lot of ATMs, but just bring a little patience with you, because the banking culture here is a little quite different.
Yeah, and to that point, if you have to handle any business in regards to banking, be prepared to be there for hours.
Yes.
Because there are other people who have to go in person. I don't even know if they have a customer service line, like a phone thing. I don't know, but the banks are packed full of people who need help, and there's only so many people who can help them. So just be ready. Like, if you need to take care of anything inside of a bank, plan it. That's your activity for the day. Just say that. Let's just say that, right?
That's true.
And even in some ATMs, I notice I'll walk up and it'll be totally empty, but then I turn around. Now by the time I'm done, it's like a line of people behind me. I'm like, where do these people come from?
That's so true.
Yeah, so it's always very interesting.
But that's why I think we are talking about the transferring of money, moving money through apps, because you avoid making trips unless you have to pull out cash from the ATM. If you can move your money around that way, you avoid additional trips to the ATM.
Yeah, and then also another benefit, which I've never used, however, there are other people who have used this.
Okay.
Having money delivered via Rappi.
Oh, yes.
So
that's different. Yes. That's a different part of the culture. Talk about
There's an app called Rappi here, right? So on Rappi, you can get
equivalent
food.
to like your Uber Eats a little bit, but they have more services. They have more services.
So you can get food, you can get rides, you can get groceries, anything you can think of that you want to buy at a store. For the most part, you can search on Rappi, and you try to find it.
You get your pharmaceuticals.
Yeah,
delivered to you.
Yeah, and if you can find it on Rappi, you pay for it through Rappi, and it'll be delivered right to your door.
If I left something over here at Kelly and I wanted to, I go home, I forgot I left something at your house. Well, guess what? I can Rappi it, do a Rappi errand. They go pick up my item and bring it straight to me wherever I am.
Yes.
So that's another benefit.
It's beautiful. It is a beautiful thing.
It is a convenience.
But it's not that big of a fee. But if you use it on a regular basis a lot, it can add up. But however, my point is that
they do money.
Yeah, they do money. So if you go on the app, you can request someone to get money from your bank and bring it to you. Don't know exactly how it works because I have never done it.
I haven't done it either, but I know several people who have, and they swear by it. They swear by it, and I don't know, maybe from where we come from, it's a little nervous.
Yeah, I don't trust it.
Right.
I'm like, no.
But it's a little different here. It's a little different here, and I don't know the safety or security parameters that they have.
They have a PIN, so you have to. So basically, whenever, just like when you get food or anything else delivered, they'll give you a PIN, and you have to give that PIN to whoever is delivering whatever item that you are receiving.
Once you receive it, if they text you and ask you for that PIN, do not give it to them because they off with your money.
Right. Once they're at your door with your stuff,
then
you give the PIN. They'll give you your stuff. They're done. They're gone. It's just that simple, right? So that's another convenience and another way that you can get money if you're unable to go to an ATM or even find an ATM, which you should be able to find one. But I know we get busy in life. Even though we are in another country, many of us are still working remotely. So sometimes it's just about, hey, I can't even get there because I'm working all day and then my kids are home now. Then I got to do all these things. So, that's just a convenience. But I do want to talk about different banking accounts that don't charge you fees for your transactions, your international transactions. Yeah. I use Fidelity. Fidelity Cash Management is what I've done. It's very simple. Just open it up. It's just a regular checking account through Fidelity, and they reimburse me for any of my ATM fees. Also, you have Charles Schwab. That's a very popular one. They have a debit card that you can set up. They will reimburse your international fees as well. So those two are pretty popular. I don't know. Do you know of any other ones? Because those are the top ones that I know.
Those are the top two that I know about too. I don't know of any others that will reimburse you that ATM fees. There's one, but I can't think of the name of it. But there is another one that out of those two.
And then too, I mentioned Wise is a banking account. Like you can have a checking account, so you can get a debit card, and that will not charge you, I don't believe either, for your fees, your ATM fees. So look into these different options again and see what's best. You may already have an account with Fidelity or Charles Schwab or something like that. And if you do, it's just a simple matter of just adding a little checking account to it. Absolutely. And then putting your money in there. So think about it, do it. That is very important if you want to save some money.
Absolutely, because a little bit goes a long way.
A long way, yes.
I almost want to go back and see all of those ATM fee reimbursements and how much that is, and see how much you save in just those reimbursements. Because once a week, going to the ATM,
pulling out a nice lump sum because you need it for the week. Yeah, that can add up.
What are the ATM fees right now, too? Do you know?
I don't even know. Okay. I don't know because I don't pay them. Right. So I don't care because I'm getting my money back, so I don't even pay attention to it. So yeah. But I do want to make sure you guys know that you do not have to have everything figured out before you come here.
Absolutely.
The most important things I would say is just make sure you have that checking account that reimburses you on those ATM fees. Making sure that you have your credit cards, and if you need to let them know, because at this point my credit cards don't require me to let them know if I'm traveling. It's just like whatever.
Oh yeah.
But if yours does, make sure you let them know. And then any other banking accounts you may be using, make sure you let those banks know that you will be out of the country. So just maybe those are the most important things. All of these different apps we're talking about, that can be figured out once you get here, or you can download it if you have time and do the research beforehand. But all of that stuff can be done before you get here.
Right, and I guess
after you get here.
The reason why, and I'm glad you mentioned that again, the important reason why you want to let your banks know that you're traveling, because sometimes when you go to use you just sat down, you're in another country, and you try to use your card, and they won't let you. It'll flag as fraud because what is this person doing in this country? Why is this transaction happening in this country? And so unless you inform them, and then you don't even have to call your banks. A lot of times I've had it to where I just go into the app. In the app, there's an option, will you be traveling? It's different in every app, but will you be traveling? Are you planning to travel? And then you give the amount of time you're expected to be traveling, and that's usually enough. I've never had any issues, but similar to you, because I travel so much, my cards don't even really ping. I mean, maybe if I was in a country that was way far away, but my cards don't even, my banks don't contact me to say, hey, or is this you? Or are you out of the country? They, I think it's a pattern thing.
Yeah, and even when I have had like maybe some transactions that I did not recognize, it's just a simple dispute, just like we normally do, and it's always been taken care of.
Yeah.
So I know here in Colombia, maybe 2 months ago, there was an issue with one of their payment processors, and it was causing a lot of fraudulent transactions on cards or double transactions or different things. So people were kind of up in a roar about that. I believe it's been probably fixed now. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So, but pay attention. My point is still pay attention to the transactions on your cards to kind of prevent that from happening. But a good way to kind of stop that as well is to use those apps and use the cash, because then you don't have so many transactions going through your credit cards. So for me, my home bank or base bank is, my money is in the States, of course. So I have my main bank, and then I have my main banking account transfer money to like my Fidelity account, because there's so much money I put in my Fidelity account because I know that's the account I'm pulling cash out of. So I make sure I budget and I have a certain amount in there so that I can pull that cash out to pay for whatever I need to pay for. Then I also have my Remitly linked to my main banking account and my Fidelity account. So if I need to transfer money from either of those accounts to Remitly, it's fine. It's all linked. So that's how I maneuver it. And then of course, like I said, from Remitly to Nequi, if I know I'm making some local transaction, like paying for my son's football team or his the team, I guess the fee for the team monthly, or paying for his transportation, like these bills that we have here in Colombia, Nequi makes it so much easier just to pay people with that. Let me know, what are you guys thinking? Do you prefer to leave your money in the United States, especially with the economy doing what it's doing? Or are you thinking about moving your money out of the United States and starting an account in another country, such as Colombia, if you choose to live here? Now, one tip is that we are going to be talking about opening up banking accounts in Colombia in a little while. So stay tuned, but just tell me in the comments, what are you thinking? Would you feel more comfortable just leaving your money in the States and doing kind of what I'm doing? Or do you want to actually start an account here in Colombia and get your money out of the States and just go ahead and park it in a Colombian account? Let us know.
And that's really good. And that's moving into the next segment. And I think for travelers, if you're an avid traveler, if you're family that travels and you are looking to be a real global citizen, not just an American citizen, not just a citizen where you are currently at, such as Colombia, such as Mexico, but a global citizen doing international business and having, so I heard this, I'm gonna shift real quick. I heard this. The new goal should be to attain and get income through different currencies. So it's not just passive income that you should be earning, you should be getting through whatever setup you have throughout your businesses, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's digital marketing, whatever it is. Also being able to pull money from different time zones. So that's a different getting money while you sleep type of level, because you're getting money from different parts of the world, not just from one place. And so that brings me to being a global citizen. Being a global citizen and doing international business means opening up several foreign bank accounts. And so with moving to Colombia, would it be a good idea to open a bank account? And so we'll dig into that a little bit right now. And I guess my question to you, and you can put it in the comments right now too, is before we get into it, do you think opening up an account in Colombia would be something you want to do, or maybe not right now, or maybe sometime in the future? Just put it in the comments. But so should you open a Colombian bank account? And I'm going to share some of the benefits of opening up a Colombian bank account. And we already covered a couple of those things, but one of the main reasons why foreigners or expats that open a bank account is, well, first, let me give you a little background. You cannot just come here and open up a bank account.
No.
You have to first do a set of procedures before. One of those things is getting your visa. So you have to have your extended visa set up, not just a tourist visa, but your extended visa set up, whether it's a digital nomad, whether it's a pension visa, whether it's an investment visa. You have to have your visa in place before you can open a Colombian bank account. The second thing that you have to have is a RUT. A RUT is a number that they give you. I don't even know what to liken it to.
Is it like a tax ID number or something like that?
It's like, yes. It's
Okay.
exactly what that is. It's like a tax ID number. Thank you. A tax ID number a local tax ID number that they give you, and they track your money. So they're tracking how much money you're putting in the account and how much money you're flowing through those accounts. And you also want to be mindful of that. I don't have the amount of the threshold, but if you just keep enough for your the rule is if you just keep enough for your basic monthly expenses, you should be good, because they'll be looking at that, and international tax is a thing. So, and the way that Colombia is set up and the way that the US is set up, they will both tax you on your international income. So you can be double taxed. So you want to be mindful of how much money you're also flowing through your bank account.
I think it's maybe like 14 to 15,000 US dollars a year. I think it's something like that.
I think you're right. That's a number that I remember researching. I think it's around that. So just be mindful of that. So you have your visa, you have your RUT number, and you go and you open up an account. And why would it be beneficial to have a local account? Well, it'll be a little easier to pay your monthly expenses, like your rent, if you needed to pay your rent. Kelly was just mentioning the extracurriculars for her son. It's a little easier to pay that, even though maybe someone may not have a local bank account, it's easier to connect to the local platforms too, like the Nequi or the other platform that I mentioned. It's a little easier. Also, because if you're renting from someone, especially if you go like off market and you get a apartment or if you get a condo and you do it through networking and not Airbnb, not a hotel, sometimes people don't want to, like I said, they're not familiar with these other apps. They're familiar with what they're used to. And a lot of people here transfer money through Bank of Colombia. Now, here's another culture shift that I had to get used to, because in the US, we don't do this because of scams, because of frauds, but they will give you their account number and they will tell you to transfer money. And I haven't quite figured out how that works and how there isn't as much fraud. And I don't know if they have a public number and then a private number that they have set up with their accounts. I have to figure that out. But they will give you their account number, kind of like how we used to do back in the day, where people would go and they would deposit money into your account if they had your account number. Well, they still have that system, but it's digital here. And so that's another way, and a good reason why you can have, you would want to have a bank account, is to transfer money locally to people. But also, if you are planning to work locally, like you really want to get that experience, you want to get your feet dirty and immerse yourself truly in the culture, and you find yourself wanting to work locally. Maybe you want to teach English, maybe you want to, I don't know, work out of school, or maybe there's something that you want to do locally and get paid for it. That is going to be a good reason to open up a bank account, because they're going to need to pay you, and they're not going to be able to pay you to your international bank account.
So let me pause you for a second, because I don't want people to get confused.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come to Colombia and just get a job, okay?
No.
That's not how it works. I know it may sound like that. However, when Jay is speaking about teaching English or working at a school, those are professions where companies or agencies will bring you in.
Yes.
And they already have things set up to pay you in pesos and things like that. Or if you have a Colombian company that sponsors your visa to work here, you can do it that way. But no, you cannot just come to Colombia thinking you can just get a job and live here and just start life. It does not work like that.
Yes, you need the work visa.
Yes, you have to have a work visa, just like the United States.
Right.
You are supposed to have a work visa in order to come into the United States to work, even though we know it doesn't always work like that. However, that is the legal and right way to do it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So also continuing to paying your utilities, like I said, easier for transfers, and then, just getting your money to flow locally within the apps that they have here. It's just a little easier to do it with a local bank account. So those are going to be some really good reasons to open up a bank account, and also avoiding repeated ATM withdrawals because you have a local bank account. So now you're using the local ATMs, but you're using your local debit card or credit card that you're getting from the bank. Typically, it'll be a debit card unless you can get a credit card. It'll typically be a debit card. So with that, the requirements are going to vary based off of the bank. But they also include, you have to have several things. And I'm going to mention this again, the visa, but in order to do that, you have to first have your passport. So if you made entry into the country, I would go ahead and assume that you have your passport. Hopefully you haven't lost it, but you have your passport, you have your visa. Once you get your visa, you are then given a cedula. A cedula is like your local number, like your ID number here in the country.
Yeah, your Colombian ID.
Your Colombian ID number. So that's what a cedula. If you hear people referring to a cedula, that's what they're referring to. You need to have proof of address. So whether it's on a lease, whether it's you can get your Airbnb to vouch for where you're living, especially if you're living in an Airbnb for an extensive amount of time. That will be a way to vouch for your address. Any tax information that you have, proof of income from the United States, a lot of times is what they're wanting to see as well. And minimum deposits. So you need to be able to make minimum deposit into the bank account, but it's going to depend on the bank. So I won't give you numbers there. Do your research. It will depend on the bank what the minimum deposit is to open that account. And so with that, knowing what and I'll give you a few of the well-known banks here. You have Bank of Colombia, which is the biggest bank.
Yeah, it's the most popular one.
It's the most popular bank, but it's also the biggest bank here. You also have Bank of, I don't have it on here, but we have Bank of Bogota. Bank of Bogota is the oldest bank known here in this region. So there's benefits to that. You also have Vivienda, which is a really good digital platform for whatever you need to do digitally for your banks. But then you have BBVA, which is also in the United States, which is BBVA Colombia here. And you have Scotiabank. And if you've traveled anywhere around Latin America, you may see Scotiabank as well. So those are like some of the top 4 banks that you will see here. So with that, I want to ask, if you were to move abroad, knowing what you know now about opening an account, do you think you feel a little more comfortable with opening a Colombian account? Or are you saying, Jay, Kelly, I hear that, but I'm gonna keep my money where I'm used to. I'm gonna keep it in the States until I get there and then figure it out once I get there. Let me get my visa, let me get all that situated, and then I'll think about having opening an account. There are some people who are very futuristic and they plan ahead and they know once they put their feet in foreign soil and they're there long enough, they know they're going to open a local account. And there's others, I just haven't crossed that road yet.
Yeah, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind doing it. I think I'm just kind of waiting on, do I know my forever place? I don't know if this is my forever place as of yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. However, I do know that there is a benefit of opening up a Colombian banking account because the peso is increasing. So if I was to open up one and park money into it and just let that money sit, that's a great way for the inflation in the economy to kind of push the value of my pesos up if I just let it sit. So I'm aware of it, but yeah, I just haven't done it yet. I mean, I'm good with what's happening. How I'm maneuvering right now.
Yeah. As long as you're comfortable.
Yeah. Eventually, I'll get that taken care of.
Yes.
So let's move on to everyday money tips for families. Yeah. So we talked about paying your rent. I have run across sometimes where people want you to pay rent in cash, and I've heard this. Be very careful with that, especially if you don't have a lease, because I've come across someone who was trying to sublease their apartment, but wanted me to pay in cash. And at first I was like, but then I was kind of open to it. But then when I learned that the building did not allow subleasing, and then I was like, oh no, because then that becomes very, very tricky. That person wasn't going to be in the country. They're going to have someone else pick up the money. I'm like, what if that other person says that I didn't give them the money? Like, it was just getting a little too much. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. However, there are also people who scam, so be very leery and conscious of paying for large expenses in cash.
I mean, if you're not going to pay cash for your rent back home in the United States, I mean, there's a little level of common sense, and I know we're in a different country and people do things differently, but please use your discretion and your discernment, because yes, cash is king, but you need to be able to track it with your major expenses. And if you're not able to do that, I would say, don't do it.
And then it's also a headache, because again, we mentioned earlier, there's a max of how much you can pull out of an ATM. So let's just say, even if you go to the ATM that gives you the maximum amount of 4 million pesos, if your rent is more than that, that means you got to go back to the ATM again and pull out more money. And then you're carrying a large sums of money around with you, because we're not in a car, we're walking around with this money. Like, nobody really wants to do that. So bank transfers to pay your rent, or that's really the best way to do it. And whether you have a banking account or whether you have an app like Nequi, you can get that done. Okay. So just understand that. Now, we talked about Nequi a little bit. I don't know if we need to go into it anymore. Do you think we need to?
Nequi, sum it up, it would be similar to your Cash App, and it's spelled Nequi, Nequi. But yeah, I think we're
person to person, paying small, your bills or whatever. We talked about cash. Let's currency exchange tips. That's next on my list. So
that's good.
Avoid exchanging your money at the airports. Don't do it. You're going to get the worst exchange rate. Even the ATMs at the airport, I don't even know if they give you the best rate there.
So. I mean, they're taking advantage of you traveling.
Right.
They know that if you're at the airport and you're exchanging, people usually, they wait, they forget, they know that they are going to get the most amount of markup on the exchange rate at the airport.
And then you have a lot of people who are coming into a country for the first time, may not be experienced travelers. So, they just immediately like, I need some money, like now, because when you walk out the airport, you do have to pay for things like transportation. Now, you can pay with a card sometimes, but if you want a taxi or do different things, like maybe, even if you catch the bus from the airport here, I think you can pay with like Apple Pay or something different. I don't know if you can pay with a card, but I know definitely they're looking for cash. And I think I have seen someone do Apple Pay. So not sure about cards, but yeah, like just don't get caught up in that. I would say if you arrive at the airport and you have no like local currency on you, try to find the best route to use your cards. So whether that's just getting an Uber from the airport or, and just that's just going on your card, and you don't have to worry about it at that moment. And then once you get into the city, then find a bank or somewhere with an ATM and grab your money out of that. That's going to be the best way for you to get that done.
Here's another pro tip. And I haven't done this since moving to Colombia, but we used to do it a lot when we lived in Mexico. If you know that you're going to travel out of the country, from the U.S. out of the country, and you want the local currency in that country, you can request it through your bank about a few days before you go to travel. And usually that rate is a lot lower than what you would see. I don't know if it is now, but that rate is a lot lower than what you would see when you actually land in that country. So that was a way to get a really good rate as well, is going ahead about a week before your travels and requesting however some amount of money. Now remember, you just need a starter, just a starter bit of money. You don't want to have all this money on you, and just have a starter stash of cash on you. That will help you with entering into the country, especially if once you land, you're going to want to use cash. Otherwise, do exactly what Kelly said and just use your cards and use as many apps as you can until you can get to your local place where you're going to be staying and then go to an ATM.
Yeah. Also, paying attention to exchange rates and comparing those exchange rates, whether it's through ATM, an app, an exchange rate company, a money exchange company. Look at the rates and see how much they're actually charging you to exchange this money, and go with the cheapest option. Because once again, as we said earlier, these little bitty fees add up. They add up, right? Let's talk about an emergency fund. We have not talked about that because that is important.
It is important.
It's important to have that in your home country. So you definitely need it outside the country because
Absolutely.
you never know what's going to come up. As we talked about, this is a very cash-heavy society.
It is.
We're not used to that. But however, if anybody comes to your house to do anything, they're looking for some cash. Even if walking down the street or you see the people selling food or fruit or whatever up and down the street, they're looking for cash. So just keep that in mind. But you want to have funds accessible to you. If you don't have a banking account, this may be where you need to have a safe in your house, like a little small safe where you could just keep it in, keep your cash in that if you just want to have cash on hand. If you have a banking account, then maybe having a separate account where that's just your emergency fund for anything that may happen. So having multiple different ways to make payments also helps with that. So just keep that in mind to make sure you put a certain amount to the side for an emergency fund, or just like out the blue fund. It doesn't even have to be like a major emergency, but just like out the blue, oh, I need cash for this right now because they came to fix something in my house and I got to get it cash at this moment. Even going to the doctors, they prefer cash. So I've had several doctor appointments last week or over the last couple of weeks. And it's always like, we need this, we want cash. Now they do have bank transfer, but they're going to tell you up front, we prefer cash. So we've already talked about making sure you notify your banks at home about your international travel. So I don't think we need to talk about that. But the point is kind of just be prepared. Just be prepared so that you don't have any financial stresses.
And with being prepared, I want to kind of emphasize the last part of what you're saying is like having options. I don't think it would be wise to go to a foreign country with just one bank card, one credit card. I don't think that would be wise. And not have access to moving your money through apps and banking apps online. Only because if something happened, God forbid, but if something happens, you lose your wallet, you will be in such a bind. Make sure that you have options. Now, I would highly suggest do not go out with all of your financial cards on you. Take a couple that you need and let that be it. Have some cash, let that be it. You keep your other cards safe at your Airbnb, at your hotel, in the safe somewhere, parked safely. So don't keep all of those on your person. But having those different options, I think, is really, when you talk about emergency, not emergency fund, but like an emergency situation, you want to make sure that you have more than one way to access funds, more than one way to access capital for whatever you need. So I just wanted to emphasize that a little bit more.
I agree. And I think a good rule of thumb, I mean, yes, have all of your cards and this and that at your Airbnb or wherever you're living. But if you're out in the street, having one debit card that you can really pull cash from, one credit card, and then cash. That's all you really need. You only need those cards because what if something happens and your card doesn't work? So then you have another card as a backup.
Absolutely.
Or if you don't have enough cash, you thought you brought enough cash out the house and you don't, then having that credit card there, like, okay, I'll just pay it on the credit card and we'll deal with it later. So just having those little bit of options, because it can happen.
It can happen. You brought up a good point. Sometimes it's not even your card not working. Sometimes their system not working.
The system's not working.
Because we've been out different places and for whatever reason, the internet wasn't working, and that's where they have their systems on, and so they can't do transactions on any cards. And that's why, like, hey, do you have cash? Because they can't do any transactions because their systems are down or their internet is down. And so that has happened to me more than once. And so having that cash backup is really important. And that leads us into, like, we just touched on this a little bit, but going in further, like the mistakes that expats and foreigners make is, not having enough on them or having too much on them. So make sure you have that balance. Kelly said credit card, debit cards, and cash.
I have Nequi, so that's still another backup. So that's really 4 options for me.
That is. And then transferring through Bank of Colombia. So when you go to a lot of places, they have the QR codes. You scan the QR code and you can pay that way. So just knowing that that's a form of payment that a lot of the locals and the businesses here, that's how they do business. But having that emergency backup. I know I have this card. I know I have this amount of cash back at home front, wherever home front may be for you. Making sure that you have that. And a rookie mistake is ignoring those foreign fees you see, and let me tell you why you ignore them, because they're like 26 cents or 48 cents or maybe $1.15, and you're like, what is this? Well, it's just a few, depending on who you are. It's just a little bit, it's just a little bit of chump change. And if you're not paying attention, that will just add up over time. So that's a rookie mistake, just ignoring those fees. And if you're getting those fees, you're not using the right card internationally. So use your credit card, not your debit card, because your debit card is going to give you those fees. Depending on your bank, they're going to give you those fees. Most credit cards don't, but some credit cards do. So you really want to know your terms and conditions on whether or not you are going to be charged foreign fees. Because let's just say that you take an Uber ride, and your Uber ride is maybe $2 or $3 US dollars. But then you're seeing these additional fees on that card of an additional 15 cents, an additional 48 cents, whatever it is, on every Uber ride, on every ride that you take. It just adds up. It just adds up. And then forgetting about the limits, the withdrawal limits. If you have a big expense or making a big purchase, whether it's rent, whatever it is that you need, hopefully it's not rent. Hopefully you're not paying cash on rent, paying your rent in cash. But if you do, knowing those limits, you need to know those limits of how much money you can take out, because you will be in a bind and waiting the next day till you can take out more money. And so you just don't want to be caught in that type of situation. And then not researching the exchange rate. You really, really, really want to know what the exchange rate is. And you can do some research before you go to the country. I would say that is something you might want to know before going to a country. But it's okay for a lot of foreigners, because you know that you're going to be saving a lot more money going to another country. But you still want to know the power of your dollar, your US dollar, and how that translates to another country. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you do your research on that. And then we already talked about carrying too much cash. You don't want to do that. And then don't wait till an emergency to go to a bank, because
you know how many times I've gone to an ATM and then it wasn't working, or I was out of money. Because again, this is a culture where people are at the ATMs all the time. So yeah, definitely plan in advance to pull your money out if you know you need it by a certain time.
Mm-hmm. Always want to keep cash on you. I remember it's not the same type of mentality in the States, but I remember growing up, my mama used to always tell me, you make sure you have on your watch, you make sure you have a purse, and you make sure you have at least $10 to $20 in your purse. And I mean, that's as a teenager. So that was a while ago.
But it's still valid.
But it's
you
still
need a little bit more money now, but yeah.
But people don't carry cash like that anymore in the United States. And I think about that when I think about how to maneuver and navigate here, is making sure that you have cash on your person. I got caught the other day, Kelly. I didn't have cash on me, and that was the first time in a long time. And I was like, man, I do not have cash on me. And I felt so uncomfortable. Whereas in the States, I'm okay with not having cash on me. I'm okay. But here, I was like, I need to go to the bank. So I was waiting till the last minute to go to the bank. But it worked out. I didn't really need too much cash that day. But still, like, you never know. You don't want to get caught.
Yeah, you definitely have to plan. Like, for example, I know I need to pay my nanny on Fridays or whatever day. So it's like, I know by Wednesday, no later than Thursday, I need to be at an ATM to get the money out, right? Mm-hmm. Or, just even money for myself for the week, just making sure I pull it on out. I got a certain amount every week. Pull that amount out. That's money for the week to pay this, and take care of me. We're done. That's a good way to budget too, though.
That is a really good way to budget.
Because you know, you spend what's in your wallet, and if you don't spend outside of that for personal enjoyment, like entertainment and things, then you know you're not overspending.
That's a good way. That's a really good way. I know anybody who's familiar with David Ramsey. I know David Ramsey, I think, teaches on that, making sure you have your pocket money for whatever. You don't go back to your bank. You just have your pocket money. That money you take out, and that's pretty much it. But overall, we don't want to overcomplicate this. You get here, you figure all of these things out, but these are just some best practices, what we've had to learn, some of it the hard way. And we don't want you to learn that way. But overall, moving abroad is not just about having enough money. It's making sure that you have access to it, how to access it, and what to keep on you and what to keep stored away, and how to maneuver through making payments, using the local banks, using the local ATMs, using the apps here, so that you're able to maneuver and not have as many hiccups that some foreigners have when they first move, when they first relocate.
Yeah. And I just want to point out too that you don't have to be like rich or anything like that to be able to move out the country. We are people who are working every day, still making our money. We are still just paying our bills. It's just that things have shifted. Instead of paying all of our bills in the United States, we're paying our bills here in Colombia. So it's the same mindset as far as making money, paying your bills. It's just where you're paying your bills at. Having that money, that little, savings, just like you need to have in your home country, for any emergencies or any things that may come up. It's the same thing. So don't think you can't do this because of you don't think you have the money. The only thing you really need to make sure is that you have a way of making money outside of the United States or your home country, whether that's online, which most likely it is, or you have your business remotely, whatever that is, it's just that you need to make that money from afar. That's just it. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Money is supposed to be here to support your freedom. It has to make sense, and we don't want it to be a stressor. Now, if it does not make sense, you are looking at a country where, let's just say, the value of that currency is way more than the value of your home country's currency. That's going to be a strain. That's going to be a struggle for you, okay? You need to think about that before you choose to move to that location. If you cannot afford to really live there, then that's not the place for you to live. It's a place for you to visit, okay? You want to find a place where your money can stretch. You're not going to be put in a bind. You're not going to be stressed out. Even with the currency, the US dollar falling and things becoming more expensive for us, a lot of us are like, okay, do we need to pivot? What do we need to change? Do we need to cut back on something? Like, you have to really still think about those things, even though you're not in your home country, because you still have to live your life, all right? So it's just about planning, being prepared to pivot, being open, keeping a watchful eye out about what the exchange rates are and the values are of money that you have, that you're making, your currency that you're making.
I think too, one of like a pro tip also is once you get to the country and you start budgeting in your expenses and you start, okay, I can get used to this and I can navigate. I think what we're learning and what a lot of us may or may not do is budget in the exchange rate change. And that's what a lot of foreigners are realizing now with the US dollar going down. No matter where you are in the world, that US dollar, the value of it is going to impact you. And why do I say this? Because if you're used to paying, let's just say $900 on your rent, and the value of that dollar continues to go down, the rent stays the same where you are here. It stays the same, but because the value of the dollar goes down, now your rent might be
$1,200,
$1,300, just with that little shift in that value of that dollar going down. And that makes it difficult when you have budgeted out a certain amount, but have not budgeted in the potential of the dollar, the value of the dollar, and that exchange rate changing. So buffering in some emergency funds in the event of the value of the dollar changing, I think right now is really important. A lot of expats and foreigners are realizing, oh, I need to budget in this type of inflation, this type of change in the value of the dollar in order to be able to feel like I'm sustaining my life living abroad, because you'll get used to spending pennies to a dollar, and then when that dollar not dollaring,
Yeah.
and it's more like 50 cents. You're like, wait a minute. And so that's I think an aha moment right now.
And to your point, one thing that I have done because of all of these changes,
Mhm.
use AI. Use like
Oh,
chat
yes.
or any type of AI and actually just put it in like, okay, this is the scenario. I'm currently living in Colombia. This is what the dollar rate is versus the peso. What happens if the dollar drops down to this amount? It will tell you
Mhm.
what that scenario looks like.
Mhm.
I've even also put in like, okay, well, what are the best places for me to live or best cities or countries for me to live if the dollar goes down to this amount? Where will I still be okay? It will tell you, like, so use those tools to your advantage. Do your research, put in those scenarios so that you feel comfortable about making the decision to go wherever it is you want to go. And you kind of have a understanding up front of how you can pivot if these things change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but we don't want to scare you, overcomplicate it, but these are real things you need to think about because this is your life. It's just like it's our lives, right? So if you're making a decision to move out of your home country, that's a big decision. You need to be prepared for that and your family, because again, we're talking to people who have families. It's not just one single person. When it's a single person, it's easier to pivot. It's easier to say, okay, nope, this not working, I'm gonna bounce. But when you have a family, you have kids in school, they're in activities, it's not always that easy to be like, all right, we got to pick up and go like now, you know?
Right.
But once you get to your home, your place, your new place, whether that's Medellin or maybe that's somewhere else, you'll get used to the banking. You'll get used to the culture of the finances and how to operate and paying the bills. It becomes easier. It becomes much easier once you start doing it on a regular basis. It's second nature, just like you would be in your home country. So, but one of the greatest gifts that you can give your family is just moving abroad. It's not just the money. It's the experience.
The peace.
It's the peace.
The freedom.
The global children that we're raising.
Oh, yes.
The things that they're learning. The things that we are able to do that we could not do in the United States because of the expenses of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
So just like think of a broader picture. Yes, money is important. Yes, it's important to be able to make sure you can maintain yourself and take care of you and your family, but it's much bigger than that as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure you continue to watch us.
Yes.
We want to continue to make sure you are building your confidence about your decision of moving abroad if this is something you are truly interested in doing. So we're going to continue to bring you the information that we have available to us and our experiences and all of those things.
We are here parenting in Medellin, and there's so many experiences that we have that we want to share and gift you with, because there's just, if we can close the learning gap for someone else, and you can just get here and just start living life without some of these stressors, oh my gosh, how easier of a transition it would be for you and your family. And that's our goal. That is our goal.
Yep. So we're here every Friday, as I mentioned earlier, usually around 10ish. If we're not here, that's just life happened. And we couldn't be here. That's just it. So just understand that we're live on a weekly basis. Make sure you subscribe so you know when we have a video or we're going live. Make sure you pick up that 90-day relocation checklist. That is free. It's in the description. Click on that link. You can grab that. We're also coming out with a relocation guide for Medellin.
Yes.
So that's going to be dropping soon. So yeah, just stay posted. Make sure you put comments out there, or if you have any questions, if we put them out there on the video, we'll check it, and if we have the answer, we'll do that. If we have a question from multiple people, we may make a video out of it. So
absolutely.
Let us
we
know.
want to know.
Let us
What do you want to hear? I know some of you all want us to go outside so you can see Medellin. So we're working on that.
We're working on it.
There's some serious logistics that need to take place for that to happen. But follow us on our platforms. We're Mamas Beyond the Matrix on Facebook. We're Mamas Beyond the Matrix on Instagram. Mamas Beyond the Matrix here on YouTube. So follow us, share, subscribe. If you love this content, we're going to be sharing some more. And yes,
we're going to wrap it up. All right. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching
Mamas Beyond the Matrix.
Bye, you guys.
Bye. No.